It was July 1883 and the Sonoran Desert burned under a sun that turned the sand into a skillet. 40 miles west of Tucson, in a dust-choked cluster of adobe huts called Las Palomas, lived a 12-year-old orphan named Isaiah. His parents had been swallowed 2 summers earlier by a flash flood that roared down the arroyo like a living beast, leaving him with nothing but a threadbare serape and a single cow that gave barely enough milk to keep hunger from gnawing his ribs. He rose before dawn, milked the cow, carried water from a spring 2 miles away, and ground mesquite pods into flour while his Aunt Maria barked orders from the doorway of their hut. The village feared Apaches the way sailors fear storms. Geronimo's name drifted on every wind, half curse, half prayer. One afternoon, while coaxing the cow toward a patch of withered grama grass, Isaiah saw a shape slumped against a giant saguaro. At first he thought the heat had conjured a ghost, but the shape was a man, an Apache warrior, buckskin leggings torn, blood crusting a bullet hole in his side. His braids were matted with sweat and sand, a single eagle feather drooped from his hair. The man's lips moved without sound, and his eyes, black as obsidian, fixed on Isaiah with the dull shine of something already slipping away. Every story the boy had ever heard screamed at him to run. Apaches scalped children, burned ranches, left nothing but smoke and silence. Yet the warrior looked less like a monster and more like a broken bird, wings clipped by the desert itself. Isaiah's legs carried him back to the village before his mind caught up. He burst into the hut, snatched the morning's milk still warm in a clay jug, and ignored Maria's shout. The sun hammered his bare shoulders as he ran, the jug sloshing against his hip. When he knelt beside the warrior, the man's breath rattled like dry beans in a gourd. Isaiah lifted the jug. "Drink," he whispered in Spanish, unsure if the Apache understood. Trembling fingers closed around his wrist, guiding the rim to cracked lips. Milk spilled over the man's chin, cutting pale rivers through the dust and blood. For one heartbeat, life flared in those dark eyes, gratitude, maybe, or simple relief. Then the grip loosened, the chest stilled, and the desert wind took the last of him. Isaiah scraped a shallow grave with his hands, the sand burning his palms. He piled stones in a low cairn and marked the spot with a cross made from saguaro ribs. That night he dreamed of eagles circling red canyons, their cries echoing like distant thunder. Word spread through Las Palomas the way sparks leap from dry brush. Maria crossed herself a dozen times and called him reckless. Old Padre Ruiz laid a gentle hand on the boy's head and murmured about the Good Samaritan. Children who once mocked Isaiah's patched clothes now trailed him, begging for details. He gave them none. The warrior's eyes haunted him more than any tale could capture. Far away, in the hidden folds of the Dragoon Mountains, a young scout named Taza watched through creosote branches. He had tracked Nach, son of Cochise, blood of chiefs, after a skirmish with cavalry left the warrior separated and bleeding. Taza saw the white boy bring milk, saw Nach drink and die in peace. He rode 3 days without sleep to reach the camp where smoke curled thin and constant, where women ground acorns and warriors sharpened arrows by firelight. Geronimo listened without expression, fingers drumming the stock of his rifle. When Taza finished, the chief stared into the flames for a long time. "A child gave water to the dying," he said at last. "Such a debt rides heavier than any scalp." Geronimo spoke of the old days when buffalo darkened the plains and the people moved with the seasons. Isaiah listened, forgetting hunger, forgetting fear. The chief's voice was low thunder rolling across canyons. Yet the desert keeps no secrets. Army scouts on a ridge 3 miles east saw the gathering and sent a rider galloping to Fort Huachuca. By mid-afternoon dust clouds announced cavalry, 50 blue-coated soldiers under Captain Elias Thorne, a man who measured glory in Apache ears strung on rawhide. Thorne expected a massacre in progress. He found a village alive with unlikely laughter. Geronimo's warriors formed a line, bows unstrung but ready. Women and children melted into the arroyos. Isaiah ran to the chief. "They'll shoot if you fight," he pleaded. Geronimo's jaw tightened. Men who fear shadows see enemies everywhere. Thorn's troop thundered in, sabers flashing. Lay down arms or be cut down, the captain bellowed. Geronimo raised one hand, arrows stayed in quivers. Then he pushed Isaiah forward into the open space between armies. This boy saved Nature's soul. Will you spill his blood to prove your courage? Thorn's horse danced beneath him. His gaze flicked from the child to the silent ranks of warriors, to villagers clutching rosaries. A sergeant muttered, "Just a kid, sir." The captain's ambition wavered. Isaiah stepped closer, voice trembling but clear. "I gave milk to a dying man. That's all." Padre Ruiz joined him, Bible pressed to his chest. "Lower your weapons, Captain. God's mercy is thicker than army regulations." Minutes stretched like pulled rawhide. Finally Thorn spat into the dust and signaled retreat. "Escort them to the reservation line," he ordered his men, though his eyes promised future reckonings. Geronimo mounted, then leaned down to place an eagle feather in Isaiah's hair. "You are my brother now. If the world turns against you, send this feather to the mountains. 400 will ride again." They left as suddenly as they came, a river of horses flowing east. The village stood stunned in their wake, gifts piled higher than any harvest. That night Maria wept into her apron, half from fear, half from pride. Isaiah lay on the roof staring at stars, feather tucked beneath his pillow, wondering what brotherhood meant in a land that devoured its children. Years rolled like tumbleweeds. The Apache Wars sputtered to surrender in 1886. Geronimo walked into captivity with his head high. From prison in Florida he sent word through traders, "Tell the milk giver I remember." Isaiah grew tall and quiet, married a girl named Luz with laughter like monsoon rain, fathered 3 children who learned to ride before they walked. He became the village's voice when soldiers demanded taxes or when reservation agents cheated Apache friends. Each spring Taza, now a leader, brought families to Las Palomas. Children of both worlds raced through sagebrush, speaking a mongrel tongue of Spanish, English, and Athabascan. In 1905 Geronimo, old and bent, returned to Arizona under guard. He insisted on one stop, Las Palomas. The reunion was brief, 2 men, one white-haired, one bronze, embracing beneath the same mesquite that once shaded a feast. "Your kindness bought my people one more day of honor," the chief said. Isaiah answered, "Your warriors taught me the desert keeps its promises." Isaiah died in 1952, buried beside the saguaro where Nache fell. His stone reads, "He brought milk, and warriors came." Every autumn descendants gather there, Apache and Mexican and Anglo, sharing coffee thick as mud, telling the story until stars will overhead. The eagle feather, brittle now, rests in a small museum case, but its echo rides the wind whenever a stranger offers water to the thirsty, whenever fear threatens to drown mercy. Because in the hottest desert, a single cup of milk can summon an army, not to destroy, but to remind the world what it forgets at its peril, that courage sometimes wears the face of a hungry child, and gratitude can outrun any bullet.